I'm happy to be here alongside our Minister of Finance, Nate Horner, to share more about Budget 2025. We've titled it Meeting the Challenge. And of course, we have a lot of challenges this budget year in the face of global trade uncertainty. We've worked very hard to keep our economy competitive, maintain our Alberta advantage, and also stand up for our province's autonomy. Our strong quality of life, our strong economy, and abundant opportunities continue to make Alberta the best place to live and work and raise a family, and we're focused on keeping it that way. Budget 2025 supports families and Albertans facing higher living costs. It invests in our core services like healthcare and education, and it positions us to respond to the uncertainties in trade caused by the tariffs. We're cutting your personal income taxes, which will save individual Albertans $750 and families $1,500 annually, at least up to that amount. We're investing billions across the healthcare system to improve healthcare access, build capacity at hospitals and rural facilities, expand surgeries, retain healthcare workers, and of course, grow out our primary care through both new funding models for doctors and nurse practitioners. We're also investing heavily in education to hire 4,500 more teachers and other educational staff, and of course, supporting the construction of new and expanded schools to create more than 200,000 new school spaces by 2030. So I could go on about the great work that our government is doing, but I do want to make sure that Minister Horner and I can get as many questions from you as possible. So that's the large scale framework, and I'll leave it there, and then happy to start taking your questions. Sam, did Minister Horner have anything he wanted to add, or Minister, did you have anything you wanted to add before we get into the questions?
Just briefly, Premier, I would just say, it's always a challenge to create a budget in Alberta. We do have the most complex and volatile system in the country, and this year it was harder than ever for many of the reasons the Premier mentioned. But we're proud of this budget. It's we thought it prudent to do a lot of things in this budget. It is a deficit, $5.2 billion deficit. We have a $4 billion contingency. We have what were at the time, I'd say, conservative assumptions around the price of oil, the differential, and some of our other sensitivities. But we're also very cognizant and reminded every day that we're just coming off a year where we had 4.4% population growth. We do expect that will subside in the years to come, but we're trying to do a lot of things. Manage the finances of a province that's growing fast, and so that'll always be a challenge. But I think we found the right balance.
If I may ask, and in your view, what kind of Prime Minister would best serve Alberta's interest, especially in terms of energy and fiscal policy? Thank you.
It probably won't surprise you that I'm supportive of Pierre Poilievre. He's consistently been a voice in favor of energy, economic corridors, reducing red tape, and respecting provincial jurisdiction. That being said, we have to deal with whoever becomes Prime Minister of the country. And so I'd mentioned in my first answer the 9 things that we have asked to be repealed or revised so that we can reset the relationship with Alberta. And I hope that whoever forms the next government will realize that we have a huge opportunity in Canada to finally find new markets internationally. We have a major advantage off the West Coast now that we have LNG export available, oil export available, the Port of Prince Rupert, which allows us to export pretty well any product that you can transport by container ship to Asian countries. This is our time to continue to expand those opportunities, develop our critical minerals, find those new markets. And I think that the mood of the public right now is let's just do it. Let's build things, regardless of who becomes Prime Minister.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I have a question to Minister. With the ongoing trade tension between Canada and the US, small business in Alberta are feeling the squeeze from higher export cost. May I ask, aside from waiting on federal negotiations, does the province have any specific support of funding in place of help buffer these impacts of the tariffs? Thank you.
No, thank you for the question. So there's nothing specific in our budget that I would say is tariff support. What I would say, we did increase the contingency to have flexibility to respond with all of the uncertainty that we saw. But it is the reason these federal conversations are so important that the premier's having and that I'm having with my colleagues is to really highlight the different areas that are being impacted by the tariffs. Watch that in real time. See how that's playing out. Obviously, the auto sector gets a lot of airtime across the country. We also know there's sectors that don't have immediate answers and other trade options, and some of that's due to international tariffs. I'm thinking of canola is very important to us in Alberta and some prairie provinces. Also, the pork industry, the seafood industry on the East Coast. So we want to make sure that our regional differences are understood. But when the country like Canada puts on their retaliatory tariffs, they're going to take that income. We need to do our best to advocate to make sure that it comes back to those areas that are impacted. When I look at our contingency, honestly, the big thing that was worried about, and we continue to be, is that if this were to really escalate, we get very concerned about the statutory obligations of government. If we see massive job losses, if things really went into a downward spiral, we need to know that we have the flexibility in our budget to respond to things like income support and other things on the social services side. So very important to keep having those conversations. It's hard to plan for the cure when you haven't experienced maybe all the pain yet, but we monitor very closely and keep those conversations alive.
And I'll just add that for anyone who identifies an area where import tariffs are causing harm to an industry, we're intervening on behalf of specific firms. So if there are some mistakes that were made, we're advocating with the federal government to get some exemption or rebate to those companies who are impacted by those. So if you hear of those instances, just make sure that we know about them so that we can advocate.